Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Johnson, and I am the Outreach Manager at the Theodore Payne Foundation for Wildflowers and Native Plants. And we are delighted to be here with you today to share this very, very special garden that we were honored to have on our garden tour this year, which is Teresa Mackey's garden in Tahunga that was designed by Eric Crow, who is also here with us today, who is a landscape architect and designer at Form LA Landscaping. And welcome, both of you. It's great to see you.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me in my garden.
And Teresa, your background image is just a gorgeous picture of your garden.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit? It is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Can you tell us a little bit about where you're located and why you were seeking out a design that included defensible space?
I'm located, I guess, in the foothills. I sit between the Verdugos and the San Bernardino. Is it the San Bernardinos, I do believe? So I'm sitting kind of in a valley area where we got a lot of high winds. So when I was ready to redo my garden, I was looking for a landscape company that would know more about my particular area, the challenges up here with the weather and especially the high winds. And some of the other attributes that are up here. It gets a little drier in the summertime. So it gets, because of the heat and everything. So that's how I reached out to Eric and Forum LA to come and help me and design a garden that I could see and use all the time. Because in California, you can be out in the garden like all the time, 12 months out of the year.
Exactly. And your garden really feels just like an extension of your home. It's just such a absolutely wonderful place to spend time in. So I think we will go ahead and share the video that we have of the garden. And as we go through, we'll probably pause now and then to talk about some of the things that we're highlighting. But let me see if I can pull this up from the QuickTime player and share. And let's take a look. And so here's Teresa's house. And you can really see from the last shot and this shot that it is just right between two areas that are up against the wildland urban interface. And Eric, do you want to talk a little bit about what we're seeing here?
Right. So being that Teresa is close to the mountain area, it was important to really look at her design in terms of defensive native landscaping and putting that into practice. And throughout that, just kind of creating a place that she really enjoys and wants to use. So she'll be out in the space also. And as you can see it, like you mentioned, it's an extension of her indoor to outdoor. Of course, here's a picture of existing pine trees, they're out in the street, but and that's one of the areas that we can always be more diligent in, is picking up pine needles, and because of course that's fuel for fires and embers. But so you can see that's out in the street. And as we go back, along the side of the house and to the rear of the yard, you can really see the existing oak trees. This is great because oak trees are kind of like the linebackers of catching embers, and really a great tree to have,
Absolutely. And the one of them, you know, we always imagine homes being sort of just engulfed in a wall of flames, but oftentimes houses burn because of the embers, and those embers can travel, you know, up to a mile ahead of the fire. And so Teresa, it was wonderful that you had those existing oak trees already in place there.
Exactly. And they're beautiful just to look at with all the wildlife. So it's got a lot of, you know, purpose and stuff. So they're great to look at. The great squirrels are enjoying it, birds are enjoying it. And I also know that, you know, it's going to catch the other parts of the bad parts of wildlife, I guess, you know, fires. Fires are man-made, but they move, you know, organically on their own by nature.
Yeah.
Right. And as you can see, you know, we worked with defensible space there. You can see the gravel that we tried to create separation. And, you know, the house is probably the most flammable on the property. And so that would be our high priority to create that space.
And the gravel path, I mean, it's because it does separate the garden from the house for fire, you know, fire protection, but it's also a soft landscape for the house. And also when you walk on it, it crunches, which is kind of cool. And it reminds me of walking on a trail. You know how when your feet walk on a trail, there's that crunch. So you kind of, you know, it's a defensible space. It's a soft space. It's pretty, but it's also when you walk on it, you think you get a little bit of like, oh, being out, you know, in nature when I walk on it. That memory
That's
of
correct.
going on hikes and stuff.
Right.
I love
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And that defensible space is so critical for the safety of our firefighters. And so it's, you know, we're very lucky to, you know, we want to be in a space where we're accessible to firefighters, where they can get onto the property and move with ease so that they can protect the home. And so keeping that first 5 feet clear of plants is going to create a really safe space for them.
Right. And great assortment of potted plants, Teresa.
Thank you. So,
And here's Sarah.
there's okay. And luckily the garden, because it is mostly, it's all native, majority is native. It stays like green and hydrated throughout the year. So that makes it kind of, you know, you don't have to, you know, worry so much about it drying out, and you know, you have to, you know, keep the maintenance up, you know, and the trimming up and everything to keep it lush. But, you know, that's one nice thing is it is so green and hydrated throughout the year.
And Eric, you guys picked a particularly, I love this palette, because we often hear a lot of the myths about native plant gardening are that, you know, that it's just cactus and gravel and looks dead. And but there are a lot of California native plants that are evergreen and can, you know, with a little bit of irrigation. And for firewise zones, we do want to have some supplemental irrigation. Could you talk a little bit about that, Eric?
Yeah, because Teresa is located in this area, we really focused on using native plants that maintain their evergreen state. And so, you know, just creating that well-hydrated landscape like you're talking about was very important. And also, you know, as you can see with all the flowers and green, it's very lush. It's not, just like you're saying, it's not the typical dry landscape that you'd see. It's very lush and full. But yet, because it's like that, you'd think, well, you know, it seems like that would be a very hazardous landscape, where, like the mentioned, it's very well hydrated. It actually is, you know, the first line of defense for catching those embers that you're talking about coming from miles away, or you know, through the air, and stopping them before they reach the home or flammable areas. But again, any landscape, the first thing to do is just keep it well maintained and well hydrated.
But it also doesn't need nearly the same amount of water that a conventional or traditional landscape would require, correct? This is still.
Right. Right. And to speak a little bit about that is, yeah, it's a low water drip irrigation system we use. And, because of the placement of plants and the design of that using microclimate, so it's all zoned separately. So the plants are really getting the water that they need, and unnecessary water, we're trying to avoid that. And so it's kind of designed into the landscape.
So beautiful. These shots of the sage. So that was some footage from the winter in 2021. And now we're coming back to see some of the images from the spring. And you can see here too that the covers have come off the patio furniture back there. And even outside of garden maintenance, there's a lot of aspects we might not think about in terms of couch cushions and other flammable materials in the yard. And so,
Right. And
yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. And, and that was one of the considerations, because Teresa wanted to have a space for her and Sarah to play, of course, the meadow, and then a place to entertain, which you can see right there. And so what was nice is Teresa has a place to store those cushions and her tools in a storage building there away from the house. And like you said, and then she covers up the furniture too. So just keeping the flammables away from that and managing the best you can that defensive space is idea for preventing something to happen to the home.
And I think we have some shots of that shed coming up too, so we'll be sure to point that out. And maintenance is also incredibly critical for fire resilient landscapes. Making sure that there's no dead material on any of these plants, and it's not so much about the species of plant. Of course, you could have a beautiful manzanita, two manzanitas, one that's, has dead wood all over it and is not receiving any water that becomes a fire hazard, or, a beautiful manzanita that's, being pruned, the dead wood is taken out and hydrated, which is going to have those evergreen leaves that just squash out those embers. So the maintenance in this garden is just done so well. And also here's Teresa's certified wildlife habitat sign. And Teresa, you just got that this year, right?
I did and stuff. And there's a thing of the shed. And I think also with the maintenance is something about keeping the bottom of the plant upright and clipping more from the bottom, so embers, when they roll, they don't catch. Luckily, I have Farm LA doing my landscaping, so I don't know a lot about that, but I do know there is something about, making sure you trim toward the bottom of the plants to help with that fire.
Yeah, and Teresa, that's just to mainly keep it because as the wind pushes the debris and leaf litter, and it catches underneath the plants. So just keeping everything clean underneath and well maintained is a key. A good point. And it just looks great.
There's a little bird's nest up there. You have so many birds in your yard, Teresa.
Exactly, it's really wonderful. And then also, it's not fire-wise, but it's my own unscientific thing is if you have enough plants that bees want to be around, they don't really and eat. They don't bother you when you're eating. I'm sitting in my patio. We've had food out, we've had wine out, and when you go to a park, a bee will sit on your Coke can or your wine glass or whatever. When you have a lot of things they like to eat around, they have a tendency not to bother me. And I wish our parks, the public spaces maybe would plant more, and maybe people would enjoy public spaces a little bit more, and stuff, instead of swatting bees away all the time and stuff. So I've noticed that. I had a friend over who was kind of afraid of bees, but there were hundreds of bees on Sunday out in the garden eating, and they didn't bother us at all. I said, they won't bother us and stuff.
Oh, that's great.
The white sage and the Cleveland sage. So that's one of the benefits of a garden.
Absolutely.
And how you can, coexist with wildlife that's so important for what we need and stuff, with the bees and the butterflies and the lizards. They all play a part.
Especially here, we're so lucky to live in a place that has so much biodiversity. In fact, we're a biodiversity hotspot here. And so to be able to use plants to create a landscape that is going to protect your home and also invite this welcome wildlife in, you become like this little island that creates this habitat connectivity between these two wild spaces. It's just such a beautiful way to connect to nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is.
And we've got your
Red
beautiful.
And you can have some edible plants, because these flowers are edible and they're gorgeous and stuff. So.
And what do you eat them on with?
I put them on oatmeal. It makes with oatmeal
nice.
with blueberries, makes a really fine Instagram picture.
I love that.
I think Cassie throws them in salads and stuff. Cassie works at Form LA with Eric. She's
Right.
stuff. So,
Yeah,
like
the
the white
sages,
sages. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, like the sages also. You can use those in cooking or just for aroma. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
the white
your
sage
garden.
made a smudge stick if you're to smudging and stuff. The white sage. So.
Right.
And here's your little vegetable garden.
And this is what it was before. Which is a lot of green lawn, for embers to roll all over the place. A lot of dry material. The junipers, which are, I understand, very like little torches. The juniper plants. And there's the other wildlife.
The other wildlife, Sarah.
The domesticated wildlife. Well, thank you everyone for coming.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your garden, Teresa. And it's just such a great example of how you can create this lush space that is almost an extension of your home, and provides all of this protection for you and Sarah, and also it's a wonderful place for wildlife. I was blown away by how many birds and butterflies and bees were present in your yard. It's just a beautiful space.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah. Thank you, Teresa.
Yeah.
Thank you, Erin.
Great. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you on the next tour.